Hey everybody, this is James at TeaDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. Today, as you can see, a change of location. I am actually filming this at my parents' condo in Seattle still, in the Leshai neighborhood, so we're by a lake, and I apologize for the washed out background. I'm house sitting for them for this week, so I'm here, I'm working, I'm filming TeaDB. Wanted to try out a new setup, see how y'all like it. So if you enjoy it, please do let me know. And yeah, you can see there's the lake behind me. It's probably washed out. Sorry for that. It's probably filmmaking 101, not to film in front of a washed out background or whatever, but here we are. So we're gonna drink tea, we're gonna make the best of it. So today I have a tea that is a little bit unusual for something to be brought on to the show, and it's not the tea itself. The tea itself is a 2005 Changtai Iwu. I think it is the Jingpin from this year, if I remember, or it's the Jingpin. So it's a 2005. There's a really famous 1999 one that Denny and I brought on to the show about a year ago. So this is the same version, but it's from 2005. So it's several degrees less expensive than that tea. So this is not a $1,000 cake tea, as is the 1999 version. So this is far more humble. But what makes this tea unique is that it was stored in the West, and more specifically, it was stored in Washington State, a couple hours east of here in an area called Wenatchee. So that climate is, despite being in sort of the same general area in the Pacific Northwest, is pretty different from here. It's sort of in a more mountainous area. So right now we're really close to sea level. It's a lake behind me, but Seattle is basically on Puget Sound, which is salt water. And if you go east, you're going to run into a mountain range. And if you keep going south from where Wenatchee is, you would eventually run into Bend, where we'd filmed with Scott Wilson in the past. So it's drier, it gets hotter during the summer, which is when I am filming this. And so he keeps his tea. His name is Geraldo. He actually does sell tea at Farwenwa WordPress. And he has been storing tea. He's been into Pu'erh for a very long time, one of the very early bloggers for Pu'erh. So pleasure to get to try this. He sent me a very generous sample of this tea, the Ichonghao. So yeah, let's get going. I have steep number 1, steep number 2. Because I don't have my tea tray, I'm using pouring from the gallon straight into these cups. So here is steep number 1. It's sort of got that woody camphorous nature to it, and the aroma of it is really nice, actually. It's very rich. It's very sweet smelling, almost saccharine in its characteristics. Here's steep number 2, but before that, I'm going to show you guys how I'm brewing. So I'm going to make steep number 3 right here. So just having this plate as sort of like a catch-all for these tea leaves, and we are pouring just like this, and then into the cup. One thing that I noted earlier as I was drinking is, yeah, you gotta watch out a little bit for the temperature of these, because there's no Gongdao Bei, the Chahai, the fairness pitcher. The tea can be a little bit hotter, so definitely have to be a little bit careful not to burn your tongue. Really brewing up a pleasant orangish red here. And yeah, we're gonna keep going, guys. So I'm swapping these cups. Here is steep number 2. I had to put a little bit of steep number 3 into it too, otherwise I would have been stuck with it. The aroma is dying just a little bit. I'm getting hints of brown sugar and sort of that profile. Cheers, guys. Very slight herbal tones to it, hardly any bitterness to it at all. And I think, and I've had a number of Geraldo's teas from his storage, and I think his storage, which I do believe sort of tends towards the drier side of the overall storage spectrum, especially when we're used to storage places like Guangzhou or Hong Kong or Taiwan. I think it's dry. I think it'd probably be somewhere in the spectrum of Kunming storage. So dry, the tea has aged, but I think it's been especially kind to looser compressed cakes like this Yi Changhao, which I suspect was a little bit looser. And if you were to sort of damn Changtai teas with faint praise, especially from the mid-2000s, is that they're not necessarily super strong teas. So it might not perform as well in more intense storage conditions, depending on the tea, of course, in a place like Hong Kong. And I think Geraldo's dry storage in Wenatchee, which I will say he has still pumped up the humidity from what it would be very naturally. I think if you were to just store these teas on a shelf in Wenatchee, they would have been dried out. But his storage has been pretty good to this tea, which probably wasn't like the most ass-kicking tea in the first place. Anyways, cheers, guys. Good thickness to it too. It's leaving it sort of has a nice soft mouthfeel to it. Leaves a sweetness sort of at the back of the mouth and it's coating the throat. Really pretty nice, really pretty pleasant. I think it does have that basic Iwu taste to it as well. And it's definitely also aged, so that is definitely a pro when it comes to Western storage. And one other Westerner who has had teas sort of circulating around in the past couple months is Mike Petro, who was perhaps the oldest Pu'erh blogger, blogging since 2003, 2004. And I have tried some of his teas, and I do think Geraldo has stored his teas a little bit better than Mike has. That's just my personal opinion, having tried both of their teas. I just think Geraldo's storage, while it's dry, I think it's overall, you can't complain too much as long as you're okay with sort of that dryness. The tea is far from ruined, and I think for a tea like this, it's almost ideal. For something like maybe Shaguan or like a Shaguan iron cake, I think the teas will probably tend towards the unaged end under something like Geraldo's storage. But for a tea that's more loosely compressed like this, pretty good. This is still quite hot. Gonna make infusion number 4 right here, and I'll probably have to reheat this water. Alright. And I think this can also kind of show you, we've filmed a lot of episodes in our setup, but that tea is really pretty versatile. You don't need tons of bells and whistles to just have a working setup. I almost brewed these in a mug, which would have been a pretty different session, but I was able to find these cups up in one of the upper cabinets of my dad's. Hopefully they're not antiques. Hopefully I don't break them, but I think it's fine. Let's see. So yeah, and Geraldo does sell tea. So do check him out if you are interested in trying some of these teas. And he has a lot of stuff. So he has a lot of stuff that's not listed on the site. I'll be linking his site below. And one way that you can sort of tell the wetness or the dryness of the storage is really to inspect the wet leaf. So we haven't totally completed our session here. We're only 4 infusions in, but you can see that the leaves are really starting to lighten up. They're sort of showing a, not a dark green, maybe a olive green. I'd say maybe a shade less than dark green. I'm noticing the aftertaste still. Good aftertaste, and I think that's one characteristic I do like about Iwu tea. Not the best Iwu tea I've ever had, but really, I think it's solid. And this is something that I could drink pretty regularly. So just a a little bit of bitterness right at the tip of the tongue, which I consider to be sort of a healthy sign of Pu'erh. It gets overtaken pretty quickly. Really not a ton of astringency. I'm not sure exactly how this tea would age. It doesn't cross me as one that you would want to be aging for 20 or 30 years. But I guess it is 13 years already, so I suppose 20 years wouldn't be too bad. But it doesn't have like the oomph of certain other teas, but it's pretty pleasant. All right, so I think that just about concludes this in-betweenisode. I am going to give this tea a 6.0. I enjoy drinking it. I think it's pretty solid. It has a body. It has aftertaste. It's an interesting specimen just on the sheer virtue that it's been stored in the West for so long. And I think it's a good tea. So if you are interested in checking them out, please do check out those teas. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed seeing me in this environment, also give it a thumbs up. Let me know what I should do differently next time if I do end up filming more episodes here. And I will see you all next time. Cheers.